Hello and welcome. This is the Women in Action Sports Network Conversation Space. I am Alba Pardo, and today we're speaking with Anne-Flore Marxer. She's one of the snowboarders you dreamt of becoming. She would ride anything and still keep her own style and approach. From freestyle transitioned into freeride, and she not only continued to progress the sport, but she also became a true pain in the ass for a lot of people. And we should all be thankful for that, especially the new generations of riders. Her work in equality advocacy, her protest, and her tough to swallow statements meant that many would dislike her, but that she had just become one of the most valuable leaders in the fight to pursue gender equality in the action sports and snowboarding in particular. And let's not forget, she's also the 2011 Freeride World Champion, amongst many other impressive athletic achievements. She's been the face of some of the biggest brands in our sports. She's been a presenter and a true advocate for women and female snowboarding. Today, we go from the powerful athlete's insight of what risk-taking means to understanding why women's action sports still behind compared to our male counterparts, the role of events, media, sponsorship play, and why she decided to go after the equal prize money and her first big fight towards equality. Also, Anne-Flore talks about transitions and the phase of her life, having produced the wildly successful film about snowboarding and gender equality, A Line Trained by Women, and now diving into motherhood. If somebody knows what it means to take a risk, that is definitely Anne-Flore. So please, without further ado, let's give Anne-Flore a warm welcome. Well, hello. Thank you for having a chat with us, Anne-Flore. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in the southwest of France. I'm close to Hossegor, in a place where there is really good surf at the moment.
And how are you? How are things?
I am very happy and a little tired. And there's a massive challenge ahead of me, but that's good because, changes are good. They bring new things and new habits and new ideas. And so it's all good.
It's been a bit of a weird period for all of us, but it's also been a massive change in your life, becoming a mother now and figuring things out. But today, it's not so much to talk about that, but we can touch on it briefly too. But it's the month of risk-taking. And it's such a big topic that it can be tackled in so many angles. But when I go onto risk-taking and trying to explain that when it comes to personal, professional level, I find the athlete point of view very inspirational. And you in particular, you have the athlete side, but you've also produced your own projects. And you've had a very strong voice as an activist for the female equality in our industry. So I think you've taken risks in everything we can imagine. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about it. When you started competing in slopestyle, and then you switched to freeride. There's risks in both, but what are your biggest takeaways on the competitive snowboarding when it comes to risk taking?
Well, if I think of freeriding, that was changing from freestyle to freeride was on the sports side. That was the main issue. Was the risk was totally different. In freestyle, I was taking big kickers and then you do tricks and it's all fun. And yes, you can get injured, but in your head, it's always you're gonna get injured and something you can recover from. Well, hopefully. But those are injuries that you always feel that are things that you're gonna, you do your knee, you can do you can have big injuries, but I mean, in your head, it's an injury, and sports is part of that. It's also part of getting more confidence. Pretty much in sports, especially at the start of it. I'm going to start with that because that's interesting as well. When you start a sport, every time you have to push yourself every little bit of the way, and in the beginning, you see yourself having to push yourself a little bit with something you don't know how to do, and it feels like so much, but you don't feel like it's dangerous, but it's very scary because you're not comfortable. And every time you actually reach that little next step, it's so empowering, and it puts a smile on your face, and then you can be proud of yourself, and you don't need to have someone putting a medal on your neck. You just know that you catch that first wave, and you know that today you did something that you never did before. That's something you were working for a long time. So it's actually bringing that self-confidence that's that you're gonna be able to carry around for your sports thing, but also for everything else. Every time you can be, yeah, I'm really happy today because I did this new thing. And in sport, it's easy because it's right in front of you. Every time you go out, you have the opportunity to do something a little further, and then bit by bit, you get better and better, and then the risk becomes higher and higher. So freestyle, yes, you can get injured, but it's part of it. And then it's part of it. I mean, it's part of progression. And then you can heal from it, but you have to heal it right. And you have to, to always think of what is the risk you're taking and is it worth it? But when you bring it to free riding, that's actually a very different thing, because in free riding, it doesn't feel like, it's not like you're hitting a jump where it's that one thing, it's like every moment on the mountain can bring a much higher risk. And sometimes the difference can be so small, sometimes you want to hit a cliff, and sometimes the line, you're going to take it right straight, and sometimes you're going to be 2 meters too much on the right side, and that can actually be life threatening. So the risk is it's much more important. But also, while you're at it, it's kind of hard to see where it is. Sometimes, avalanches, they happen all the time. They can also happen in super easy terrain, and injuries can happen in the most easy moments. And it's most of the time, I would feel, when you're a bit careless. So when it's not as stressful, that's when it's going to happen, because you're not paying enough or as much attention to things. So that was for the risk-taking thing. Yeah, that was a big thing to actually go through your head, to understand that when you start going free riding, then the risk can lead to death so much quicker. It's not like you're gonna hurt yourself. It's like, okay, I have to actually be much more prepared, or know what I want to do so much better, because the result of the mistake is much more important. But that's a good thing too, because then you actually have, that you need to prepare better in a way. That's why you don't become a free rider just from one day to the next. It's going to be all that time in the mountains. It's going to be all that experience. It's going to be knowing your everything that you're going to need in case if something happens. It's all that preparation that's so important, so that once you're on the mountain, you can be more confident. You need to be careful, but at the same time, you are more prepared. So then that's how you put yourself through things that you wouldn't have earlier, because you were not prepared yet. So the fear is a good thing, because it's actually making you prepare better
and progress, I guess, as well. Do you think, because I was having this conversation the other day with a team manager, like a brand manager of an important brand. He was a man, and he was like, I don't understand. Yeah, there's the physics part, like girls normally struggle with speed, or, the physics bit of it. But then there's also very small guys that do a lot of stuff. Why the progression of men snowboarding is so much faster, and it happens, of course we have great athletes like Anna and so on, like the list goes on, but why isn't it quite in the same rhythm yet? And for me, it was like, well, I do think that women learn differently, and I don't know, what do you think? The risks that you take, they're the same, but do you think,
how much time do you have?
Yeah, all the time in the world. Exactly. That's
yeah. So, well, to respond to that, of course, it's easy for a guy to say, how come girls are not picking up fast? But okay, first thing, I'm going to talk about finance. Because, okay, look at it. Most of the sport, in our sports industry, sports brands, they create, or they produce a product that allows you to practice a sport. First thing, the most of the boards, until I started snowboarding, there was no snowboard that was made for women. So you were talking about weight, you want to talk about height, you want to talk about, where the muscles is not actually on the same place on your legs and all that. Like, I was always riding on men's products. So what does it mean? I had boards that were too big, they were too wide, and they were too stiff. And that actually does not fit the women's body to do the sport. So first thing, we actually have a disadvantage. Most of the products that we still use today is not, or is hardly, there's such a small part of the snowboard products, let's say, that are actually researched and developed for women, by women, for women. Because a guy can think about it as much as he wants, but as long as it's not tested by women and actually brings on the all the body of the women, actually it cannot be comparable. And also another thing, most of the guys have never tried a women's board, so they, the thing is, that's a massive disadvantage. I'm going to think about the boots. A lot of times, we don't even think about it, but very few brands in the industry actually make boots for women on the women's foot. So our ankles are much smaller. Our calf muscles are not at the same height. And so to actually have the support from a boot that's going to actually bring, the stability of your ankles, to actually have the precision of the movements, which lead to progression, it's super important. So the guys, they have so many different products that actually were made for them. But on the women's side, it's actually very few products that are adapted to women doing the sport. So that's one thing. So the brands, they make products, they'll sell products to women. In our industry, we are very lucky, there is a massive amount of women practicing our sport. We are a sport within skiing and snowboarding. There's 40% of people who practice the sports that are women. So it's huge. It's not a sport where there is no women. On the people who actually are on the slopes, there are 40% who are women. So that means there is 40% minimum, and I would very surely think higher than that are the customers who buy the products. Mm-hmm. So is there really 40% minimum? I would hope for 50% of the money that is made from the selling the products that is reinvested in the sport on the communication side, on the women's side. Because think about it, every athlete, every magazine, every video, every event, that's money that's taken from the communication. Communication is a percentage of sale. So if we have 40% of the customers are women, they should be at least those 40%, the women's products are being bought by women. The percentage of that money should go back into the communication on the women's side of things. So that would be female athletes, that would be events for or friendly to women, actually prize money, and that would be for magazines, that would be for films. And so if you look at it, where is the money that's coming from the women's sales? Where is that money going to? Because if you look at all the teams, there's many more men athletes. If you look at all the videos, how many women are in those videos? If you look at all the media, all the communication, and if you think about that way, you see that most of the money that's coming out of women's participation in the sport is going to finance the male side of things.
Yeah.
And then
the justification they were saying is like, well, but there's not enough women. Like, there is women and there's good women, but there's not enough. Why is there such a big difference in numbers?
And the other thing that's super, I'm just going to finish on the progression side of things, because for progression, just compare two things. Compare a guy who loves soccer and he's gonna work all week and go training in the weekend, and compare a soccer player that's making millions, so he's got like all the facility around him, so he can actually focus on his sport, and he's got the best the best trainer, the best cook, the best whatever it is, to actually be to reach his potential. Well, obviously the guy who's working super hard every week, and can only go train at night and in the weekend, doesn't have as much leverage to actually get to his potential. At the moment, we don't even know what women are capable of in sports, because today still women are so far away from making as much money as the men. So what does it mean? That means that you cannot actually focus on your sport and actually have all the, all what it takes to reach your potential. So that's the first thing. But and then the other thing, in most sports industries, if it's an industry that's filled with men, when, not that all men are evil, I'm not saying that, but for a guy, they're surrounded by guys, with lots of guys, and so it's a normal thing to be a guy, and then you see all the other guys pushing, and then you actually fit in that, so you're part of it, and then it's motivating, and you're going to ride with your friends. When you're the one girl, or a couple girls within a very male industry, then nobody's looking at you, and you actually have to really push it so hard so that people will notice you, and who will actually respect you, and in that, and also the way we do sports, that through power and this really, I'm trying not to use sexist, but it's obviously, as long as you have lots of guys that are looking at guys, that are always talking about guys, then nobody's actually even thinking of what's helping on the women's side. And as a woman, it's quite difficult, because then you have to prove yourself so much harder, so people actually would even give you a shot, to be that one girl that's going to be in that all male video. It's taking so much, and then once you're there, how often are you going to be pushed down, and how is that encouraging or motivating to do better? And that's a massive different thing. And then the other side of things, if you even think, when we talk about sports and inclusion and all that, and we talk about little girls, we talk about children, we are all up for, yes, girls, go for it, encouragement. But then as soon as you go to professional sides of sports, then almost to everyone, it's okay that women don't get paid, or almost not much, and that makes it so tricky, because as a woman, if you want to do any sort of project, and you, as an athlete, you have to go find sponsors, and you have to go find the money to, and it doesn't cost you less money to take a plane to go do a competition the other side of the world. It doesn't take you less money to buy a lift pass, or to buy your equipment, or to travel, or it doesn't cost you less when you get injured and all that, and so on. So those are the things that actually bring a massive gap between women and men. It's opportunity, it's finance, it's encouragement, and also, if you have, if we talk about a film project, for example, it takes a lot of people to do a film, and you have to hire those people. So you have to find the money, and then you're hiring people. Well, if you have loads of people, loads of money, you can hire lots of people, and then you come up with an end project that's so much such better quality, because you had so many people working on that thing. If you don't have that money, then it's either you do a very small thing, or you don't do it, or you overwork. And I feel like in women's sports, a lot that's happening is women who have been successful, they've been really working so hard. Not saying men as well, right? Guy who has a big career is very often working really hard, but in an environment where it's going to be easier for him to find the budget that will allow him to grow his business or grow his projects bigger. And I feel like the finances is something that's been very difficult in any women career in any way, whether it's a sports side or projects or whatever you name it. And that's a thing that's difficult to battle.
So while we're at the topic of money, let me stick there, because I had a conversation the other day with some of the judges, and they were like, when it comes to prize money in competitions, I was like, so what do you think about the equal, prize money? And they were like, well, yeah, we think it's important, but also they were hesitant about, for the first top 5 men, top 5 women, the prices should be the same. But then it was like, well, you're looking at a half pipe competition, and from the 6, 7 that can win to then the 15 women, like the rest aren't really at that same level. There's like 5 or 6 that can win. For the men, there's like 20 that can win. and also the whole field, you know, is 20 opposite to 40 or 60. So they're like, yeah, we agree that the top levels should have the same money, but then the purse in general that, you know, that you get down the line, it should be, if it's 60 over 20, should be, you know, a bit bigger than that. So I was like, I understand your perspective, but how do you ever break that loop? What's your take on that?
I'm gonna start. Let's start when I was 18 years old. We were not allowed to take part in the competition because women were not good enough. So at the start of slopestyle, you're talking about slopestyle competition, we're not allowed to be part of it. I remember, you know, like all this, the first European Open. I remember Erin Style, all those big competitions. We're not allowed to participate because women are not good enough. So think of just, again, where does the money come from? If there's 40% of women on the slopes and the money comes from women's sales, why would it actually not be put back for women? But so there was no girls in the competition. So, you know, at the time, I was roommate with Drew Stevenson, who was the guy who was writing all the rules for the TTR back in the day, which is, you know, the freestyle snowboarding tour right now. And we had those conversations. And I was like, look, the thing is, yes, okay, there's not as many girls who are as good yet. But that's also because we don't find enough money to actually do the sports itself. So that means that as soon as you're 18, you go study. On the guys, they can become pro. On the women, there is no possibility of that. So you go back to, you out of it. And so the only way it's actually going to bring women to become better, you know, on a larger scale, it's when the girl who wins a competition at the very end of Finland wins enough money, just like the first guy, so that she can travel to the next competition, and then she can win it, and then she can go to the next competition. At the time, which is like today, you know, like you had, you know, the world champion title was given to the one who had the most points out of the whole tour, and the events that brought the biggest points, there was one in each continent to make sure that, you know, you could actually reach the global level for anywhere you were in the world. So if you won European Open, you needed to be able to have enough money to travel to go to you know, to the Nippon Open, and then you need to go to the US Open, and you need to travel so much. But those travels, they don't cost less when you're a woman, you know, as I said. And so the only way that the title itself is going to represent the best level in the sport is when the prize money is equal, so that that person can actually travel. And that goes as a pyramid, you know, like it goes for the first. So okay, if we say now, oh yeah, there is you know, 5 women, well then the next year or a few years later there is 10, and then a few years later there is 15. You know, back then we were not allowed to compete. And today when I look at Anna Gasser, I'm like, oh my God, you watch the Olympics and you see all these young women and they're ripping and they're so good, and I'm so proud. And I'm so proud because, you know, it was worth it 15 years earlier to be the one bringing it up and to be the one saying, hey, you cannot, you know, like call it a world championship or a world title if you don't include women. If you want to be the competition of the sport, then you have to include women. And yes, we deserve equal prize money because it's costing us as much money, as much time, as much energy, as much work, as much training. And actually women catch up so quick. Like if you think about it, the men, they had such a longer period of time to get to that level with being paid for it or finding money for it. Women, it's been such a shorter leash of time where we actually were able to find some money to be able to do that. And I feel like the level has exploded so much quicker, if in that sense, if you look at it on the timeline. So yeah, whatever they say, you know,
I agree.
Girls, just go for it.
I think time is definitely, you know, on our side, in the sense that just give us time, just give the girls time, and you'll see the potential. We don't even know the potential yet, and I completely agree. But right now, also in our sport, like if you look at freestyle mountain biking and stuff, it's you know what it was 10 years ago in snowboarding. It's now pushing again for the female scene. So I think snowboarding and skiing stuff is a step ahead in this case. There's other sports that are still behind. So there's been a lot of progress. Most events or most big events now have equal prize money. Do you think that's enough? What else is lacking? Because it takes more than that, doesn't it?
Well, thanks for asking. Because, yeah, for me, okay, so as you said, I've been fighting a lot for those things, and I made it the prize money my go-to thing because it was a public number, and so that public number was easy to attack. You know, I could actually show, hey, look at it. Do you think that's normal that, you know, in a competition, like guys are gonna make that much more money than women? Because the those numbers were public, but behind the scene, it's everything else is not there yet. As I said, how many persons are on the team? Is there 50? You know, is there like an equal amount of women getting the opportunity to, you know, to become a professional in the sport? And then, you know, ask the team manager. I'm asking the team manager because they have a massive responsibility in that, you know, difference of level. You know, as long as they pay the guys so much more, then they're taking away the opportunity for women to actually get better because it costs money. You know, same thing with, okay, snowboarding. We don't talk about how much a trip to Alaska costs. Well, you know, it costs so much money. And who are the women who actually have that sort of money to actually be able to go there? You know, to be sitting in a helicopter with a filmer and a photographer. Okay, you have 4 seats. You know, it costs, you know, at least 10 grand, probably more, 20 grand per person to be sitting on a helicopter. Who's going to pay for it? Can you actually afford to pay a photographer seat and pay a filmer seat, plus pay the filmer, and the photographer should be paid as well? And then, you know, how is it that guys have had that, you know, all those things paid for by the brands for so long, you know? And of course, the 10th year in a row you go to Alaska for the 10th time, of course you feel so much better because you know the terrain, you have experience, and you're so much better than you were on the first year you went there. But for most women, if you get one chance, one time to go to Alaska, it's already incredible. But of course, it's scary. And then you don't have that opportunity to go 10 times in a row with hundreds of thousands of euros or of dollars spent so that you actually, you know, start feeling comfortable. So that's to me, that's been for me the hardest part. But it actually starts from the very beginning. You know, like at a very small level, you know, when you go on the snow park and it's all guys and you want to take your first jump. You know, I was coaching a session where all those girls, they were so motivated, and they you know, it was their first time in the park, so they were all staying in line, and, you know, like the one behind each other so that they would each get a shot. And we started really early, and then when the day went by, the more people got in the park, and then all those kids showed up, like small kids. And all those small kids, they came and they took the spot. They didn't care that all those women were actually in a line waiting for their time to jump. They came in front and they took all the spots. And then the girls were actually putting themselves on the side, and they wouldn't dare to go anymore because, you know, it was overwhelming of all those kids going so quick and all those boys. And I actually had to tell the boys, hey, you're going to hike back up to the line because look at all those girls. They've been waiting. So what are you doing in front? You just showed up. You go back up. And one day you actually had to take your first jump. It was scary to you, but you were lucky enough that you got encouraged and, you know, cheer up for. And now it's your time to cheer up for them. That's also the other thing. You know, like make room for the girls to actually feel comfortable to try and so that they actually can get better and take the space using
that's a very graphic example. It's been a very male-dominated space, and now making room means not only inviting them in but also actually squishing in a little bit so they can have room
and that's
comfortably.
You know, it's the same with taking the speech. You know, like if you're in a male environment, it's difficult for women to actually talk because the guys, they think they know better, blah blah blah. But the thing is, we need to take that speech because we need to bring our experience, our thoughts, our ideas, because when you speak for so many other girls. Your experience is the same experience most of the girls have. A lot of time I hear the girl coming to me saying, yeah, but like people listen to you because they didn't wait for me to become a world champion so people would actually listen to me. Back then when I was 18, I was nobody. I was just a girl who loved snowboarding. And I just like I felt it was important to take the opportunity to speak, so that we could actually be part of the decision that were made. Because if you never speak up, then it's not just you and yourself that's speaking up. You're speaking up for all of us. We need to be represented. We need to be like if it, and then on the guy's side, if they don't think about it, they're just gonna try to do something, and they're gonna do whatever comes up and gonna deal with it. But if it never comes up, the girl's issue or the girl's side of things, they don't think about it. So we need to actually bring that perspective on the table so that people can actually think of that side as well.
Did you ever think, did you ever think of the consequences of talking out loud about an issue, or not? You just did it anyways without seeing what could that mean for you after that, like good or bad?
Yeah, well, I've been carrying that massive thing on my shoulders, and of course, I'm the joy kill. I became the joy kill because first it was always a positive motivation for me. It was always, like it was not about me because I never cared about. It was always for all of us, and yes, I know that so many people hate me for it, but at the same time, it looking back at it, it was so worth it.
It explodes my head that people would hate you for.
So many people hate me
Demanding something that is there, it's kind of like.
Because then it's true that it became something that I had to. It became a fight. It's true, And the thing is, I came with all those ideas of inclusion. Sounds so good when you say it like this, but then when you hit a wall, and then the when the wall is really angry with you, then you have no choice. Then actually somehow it goes. Yeah. I don't know how to say. Like
you elevate each other. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yes, I'm not saying it's easy. It was actually really heavy, and it actually put me, even in my own speech, it became this motivation thing became so heavy to carry, but so worth it. And also it became a motivation because I like. Okay, with the freestyle thing, just bringing those issues on the table with Drew, then it made him realize that yes, we needed equal prize money for the same the same first, second, third. And that was the first step for him to understand why we needed that money, so we could travel, so we could actually let the little girl from the very end of Finland come and become the world champion. And it did happen. And then today we have so many more girls being so much better. And then that was, that, and then I realized, yes, we actually, it's not about being the one voice, we should all be, if we were all speaking up, then it would be so much easier to bring changes. If all of us would actually take that space, then it would be harder to dismiss the one voice that's speaking up.
How do you see it right now? Like, it's of course evolved a lot since you started pushing, you and another woman, but how do you see it right now? Are you hopeful? Are you happy? Are you still how do you feel about it?
Well, I think then I was in freeriding, and in freeriding was the same. Women had put out, and that became a massive fight. And I used the media to actually bring the public awareness about it, and then everyone was talking about it. So it forced the private organization that's making the freeride competition to actually bring the win back, and actually now to have equal prize money.
Yes.
And they're not happy about it. No, but it doesn't matter. And at the same time, it's my biggest pride, like just to understand that it was worth it. And I'm so happy when I see the girls today, and I can think now I have a little girl. I have a little daughter, and I'm thinking, hell yes, I'm so happy. I was so important for me that the next generations of girls would have, right opportunities, and to have even be able to do that.
It's
And
funny
I'm
because the
so happy.
reaction when they announced the equal prize money for the Freeride World, so they did a press conference here in Barcelona that I attended, and I actually put the director aside. I was like, well, I'm not gonna say congratulations because it was a long time coming and I can't believe you hadn't done it before. And he was like, yeah, or I started a bit nicer, and then I kind of said that to him and he was a bit shocked, like, but he also looked beat, like his reaction wasn't like a happy reaction that we've like, if for me being able to announce that you have equal prize money, the only reason I could think of that I couldn't do that, which I can't think of one, but if I could, is like, because the sponsors, the money, the agreements, legal, something that would tie me up, that wouldn't allow me as a director to split it 50-50. Because if I would have any power over it, I would definitely, if it's 100, I'll split it 50-50. If it's 80, I'll split it 40, like, so less is less for everyone, more is more for everyone. That would be, so the only thing my good me would think, well, they couldn't do it because they had legal bounds that they could do it, which I don't even know if it's true or not. It's my, good side of me thinking it's that reason, which I know it's not. But the day I can announce, hey, I finally made it, I would be so happy, so ecstatic that I was trying to find that. And for him, his face was like, and his reaction and whatever he told me back then was like, yeah, well, we had to. But it was more of like, we had to than we wanted to. And it was like, where's this man come from? It was crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, and I know that Nicholas Haywood, he actually announced like that to the public, that they had no choice.
Yeah.
Because the public state of mind was, forcing him to. Because what happened, like press, public, sponsors put money in an event if it actually brings good publicity, and the public is 50% of women.
Yeah.
So he had no choice. So, and it's sad, I find, because when I started bringing up those ideas, it was all about good ideas that was good, is in a happy mood. But that shows you, he's the one making money out of it. So the less money he gives on the women's side, the more he is in his pocket.
So okay, let's reshuffle. How do you feel about it, the whole thing now, like now that it's equal? And sort of, I mean, I still read a study the other day. It wasn't specific for action sports, but for all sports, and only 4% of the money spent in sponsorship was spent on women. And the media coverage was like 1% or something. It was like stupid. Yeah, just the American study. I can definitely send it to you. But it was like, and the media coverage, again, across all sports, not just action sports, because it varies different. But the media coverage for women is like 1%. And I always think representation, if you don't, what you were kind of saying before, if you don't see it, you don't even know you can become it. So, but it's changed. Yeah. It's changed. We have great women now. We have great athletes. We have brands that are pushing.
Well, it did have great women, and so I would for myself, within the freeride competitions, it was I got so tired of having to become this joy kill and to having to fight about such a good thing. So at some point it became super heavy to carry, and it put myself, even my thoughts, it was just like, it was all, I was being attacked every single day of my life about it. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I remember I won Verbier, the competition, and that day we got such mistreated. It was horrible. They were yelling at us. There was everything. I'm not going to the details, but I remember just thinking, okay, I'm done with this. There is also a happy side. I'm happy to be snowboarding. I'm happy. I love what I do. So how about I start just like seeing it as a happy, good thing? And the next day I was on a plane to Iceland because I knew it was the country that was the the better for gender equality, and I wanted to experience it for myself. And once I got there, I got so interested in, why or how the country had evolved in being the most equal, and I needed to surround myself with that energy. And I made a film about it, and it was me going back to being happy about being a woman, or being myself, just as a woman.
Mhm.
And I just decided to go back to the other side, to stop having to see it as a struggle, in that sense, but
Mm.
actually celebrate um the what I wanted to be celebrating. And so that's when in my head I kind of shifted. Okay, there is no reason to feel sorry for myself, like there is a 52% of us. And then, yeah, so that's when I kind of cut it. Okay, now there's no time to lose on having to justify yourself for being a woman. How about we actually do the things we want to do? If you're passionate about something, just do it and be happy about it and celebrate it. And I really needed to go back to that inspirational, to myself,
Mm.
find inspiration and do the things that I love, and just be happy with me doing the things I love.
Is that you done fighting?
Well, the thing is, no, the thing is me, I'm done snowboarding. So it worries me in a way, because things can change so quick. As soon as we stop fighting about women's rights and women's opportunities and women's, then it shifts back to being, the first budget that you'll cut are the girls' side.
Do you
And
think the Olympics will kind of keep that push for both sides?
well, see, that's the
Or
thing, is
help
the
it?
Olympics is the best. Actually, okay, Olympics, you can, there's a lot of things to say
Yeah.
about Olympics, but there is one thing that's very positive. Is the thing is, they announced that they were pushing for equality,
Mm.
and they actually are, because as soon as a sport, even even male-dominated sport, they want to become Olympic, but to become an Olympic sport, they have to bring equal opportunities for women to qualify.
Yeah.
So that goes through all the events channels. So that also goes with prize money, and that's changing everything. Look at skateboarding. Look
Yeah.
at surfing.
Yeah.
They wanted to become Olympic sport. They became Olympic sport if they
The
could
girls were there.
bring
Yeah.
equal, and that's super important. And then also, as soon as you claim it as a public thing, then you actually have to go with it. So there is, greenwashing is not so great, but at the same time, there's one thing about it, that once you actually announce it, you have to stick with it.
Mm.
So the thing is, it's not, it's not okay, the situation right now. There is so much to be done.
Yeah.
And hopefully the next generations will be taking the charge of making their environment their own.
Mm.
Because also I cannot like keep on seeing the way I want to see it, because that's the way of my time, like now it's up to the younger generation to actually fight for what they want. And in freeriding there is Elisabeth Gerritsen, and she's going for it. So good on her, and good for the new freeriders.
Yeah. I totally get what you mean about the greenwashing, because what you were saying, there's we were saying there's a lot more girls at a very top level at the moment, but as you mentioned, there's only 1-2 girls in every brand team, and it's kind of like that checkbox, isn't it? So yeah, there's a lot more going on for women. There's a lot of more talk about it, but until the actions start to happen, it doesn't really get that wheel turning. So
Yeah, but as soon as we start speaking up,
yeah.
all of us, not only when you become someone respected, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
As soon as we start actually being part of the change that we want to see in our surrounding, and that is on the local.
Why do you think women are so scared of speaking up sometimes, or in our community? Like, why is it something that we tend to walk away from or not discuss openly or that strongly?
Well, in our industry, it's because it's male dominated. And then sports, even the sport thing, like, because the way we constructed sports, it's if we talk about power and we talk about strength and we talk about, the narrative is such about, it's such an ego narrative. And it's stupid because we're doing a sport that's about sensation. We love the sensation of riding down the mountain, or being on the wave. And those, it's not about the ego, it's about something. Do you think you're gonna enjoy it more if you're a guy? Obviously not. And the way we build competition, it's like, it's this whole narrative about sports that to me is just off. It's not what we experience in the mountains. One day riding, is it really about, is it really about risking your life so you can say that, is it really? No, it's not. We all go up because we have fun, and we come back with a big smile, and we should focus on that more, and we just, it'd be better for everybody.
What would you tell a younger you? What would be the advice, or a younger you, or the girls now, in the spot that you wear?
Yeah, I think, I would encourage, like, really, yeah, go for it, girl, because, have fun, go for it. You have nothing to lose, just enjoy it and give it all your heart, because, you live once and you might as well enjoy it.
Before we finish off, can we talk about transitions a little bit? Because every transition is a risk. Every transition is that moment of like, do I do it? Don't I do it? And I feel like, once you finish your competitive or more professional snowboarding career, that's a massive transition that we don't often talk about with athletes, because you've invested, as you said, all your focus into that one sport. And then there's one day that you're like, I'm too old for this. I'm actually too old to keep earning the money this way. Of course, I'll snowboard or surf until I die, but, or not the same way. So what do you think? And this is something that it's happening now with men. And there's been big talks about big athletes, kind of being kicked out or not renovated and this and that. How do you think this transition happens, or it should happen? And then specifically to women, because if with men is a struggle, what's going to happen to, women that have to have that transition, and a lot of times forced because they want to have a family, or, how do you see that?
Well, in sports, it is unfair that men can keep on doing the sport even though they had kids, and they can keep on earning money and be the cool guy that, it is unfair that women, as soon as they actually want to have that part of their life, it kind of cuts off or shuts off whatever we've done until then, let's say. Yeah, it is also a massive struggle having a baby. Then the baby really needs you, and that I love this relationship that I have with my baby is 7 months old, so she's so cute. But it is true that it is a massive struggle for me to even think. There's this postpartum thing that we hear about. We don't really know what it is. So for those who haven't experienced it yet, it's not about, you have the love for your baby, that's not even questionable, or some, in that, for most women, that's not even the problem at all. But the problem is, how can you take care of your baby and still do the things you want to do, because then the baby is going to need someone to be fed and to go to sleep and to take care of the baby. And in the way we have it in our society, a lot is on the shoulder of the mother. And it's better in places like Scandinavia, where at least the society is trying to put a mold where men can take more action into it, so that it actually frees some space for the women. But also, so we see it on the professional side. I'm starting to look at what is next for me, and I have all those questions. But if I look at jobs, as soon as I find a job that's interesting, that I would be up for it, it's going to need me to be traveling, it's going to need me to be out in the weekends, in the evenings. and all those things I want to do. I need to be out and about. And then I realized, oh no, I have my baby. I can't really keep on doing it that way. And then, okay, I'll start thinking, okay, so then that means I need to find something that actually leaves me some time so I can be with my baby a little bit, So if I take a part-time job, and if I look at part-time jobs, all of a sudden, all the jobs that are available for part-time are not interesting. So that's also something. Why is it that we cannot have a way to actually have jobs and still have a personal life? Because it's the same thing on guys have babies just as much as women, obviously.
Yeah.
So we could totally think, if I look at the film, we did all the editing with the editor was a woman, and she just had a baby and she was breastfeeding. So we just arranged the hours of working. So I would check with her. Okay, I would show up as soon as her baby would fall asleep. I would be at her place and we'd be editing. And we edited a lot at nighttime as soon as the baby was sleeping, and then we could work on the computer or doing and then it worked fine to just be able to shift the hours of the day we would be working. But yeah, right now I'm struggling with the idea that any part-time job is kind of a flat job, because I want to do something interesting, and
does that scare you?
Why is it in our way of constructing our society that we split it that way?
I think with COVID, the maybe one good thing that it's brought is that a lot of the companies that was unthinkable of, remote work or even flexible hours are now becoming a thing. And there's a huge movement now. I was hearing in the news yesterday, at least in Spain, that, the mothers are taking all these extra load because they're working from home. They're expected to deliver the same way, and they still have the kids at home. So it's putting a lot of emotional and psychological pressure on especially mothers, which I can definitely relate to. So yeah, I mean, it is happening, and it is challenging, and it's just built in this way that it's just, it historically has always been one of the couple had to take more care of one thing, and it's a tricky part, and it's not only for us in couples. Like, you can be a more equal couple and share the load, but then work or society are not accommodating for that change to happen.
Yeah.
Because of course nobody wants to give up everything. So if it's 75 and then you do the 50 together, the jobs, the society, the workplaces, the companies need to be accommodating for that. And I think it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, but I find that interesting to understand that the companies have a huge responsibility, as they could totally reimagine the way they shift the responsibilities on a job. I would find it easy to actually team with another person to do half of the same job title.
Yeah.
It would be easy to actually split. Yeah. Working in a team.
There's some big companies I know of, like
send me the names.
They're starting to do that, but it does, for them, is like, it's a logistic nightmare to have to, for instance, two project managers project managing the same project. It can be tricky, but it can be done, and it's only about finding ways to make it work, like you did with your movie editing at those hours. Yeah, it's different, but we're not in that moment.
There's also a really good thing of having more people involved into, because then you actually brainstorm and you have more like different ideas, because you come from different backgrounds and you have more double the amount of contacts. So
does this scare you, this moment you're in, or are you excited about it? How do you take it on?
It was very challenging for me while I was pregnant, because yes, it was two things at once. It was ending a sports career, which is not easy, and it was it gave me a few months. I was a few months ahead with the postpartum thing. I was really struggling. Okay, what am I going to do with my life? Right now, I'm not. Actually, I sent my CV for the first time.
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Yay! Good on you.
I made myself a CV. And I sent it, and actually I got straight away very positive response, and now I'm back to struggling. Okay, should I do this? But then it means less time with my baby, and so that's again like, putting me, it's, but I find it's okay. Let's say it
But
is
it's
scary.
worth it.
Yes,
Is it?
it is very difficult. I found, the very, like the baby is still very small, and and I find it tricky. Yes, it is tricky. It's a difficult time, but it's also the happiest time. And I just choose to focus on the fact that I'm very happy about, and also for me it's really like that change or times that are scary are also the best moment to rethink of what's important, what's a bit less important, where you want to, what direction you want to take, who you want to be, what life you want to have. All the hard times, they give you the best opportunity to actually rethink things, and that's super important, because once you're up and running and like, have lots of things to do and a big success or whatever it is that you're just working, you're doing so much, then you no longer have the time to think and take a step back and actually ask yourself the right questions. So I just know it's gonna lead me to, it's up to me now to think about it in a way that I can find the solutions that I needed for the life I want.
Are you going to stick
Great
around
opportunity.
the action sports industry? Do you
Huh?
want to stick around the action sports industry?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I just realized how amazing it is to be able to go up in the mountains and go do things you love. And yes, I want to share that with my baby. And the easiest way is to be, part of that,
Yeah.
because then you actually keep being around it. And I think I appreciate it more now that I had the time to think of what's going to happen if I'm not around that. And then I thought, oh, but then my baby's not. No, yeah, we need to make sure my baby gets loads of snow and lots of waves. So how do we make that happen? That's more the way I see it,
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful journey. I
But yeah, I am looking for new opportunities for anyone who has ideas.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
be very happy to discuss it.
it's definitely challenging, because I feel like we're the first wave of mothers that are, especially of course skiing, it's been around more, and I'm not saying that we're the first mothers that snowboard and love snowboarding, but that want to include our babies, or that now have the possibility to do that in a more open way. But it's still, there's no references out there. Like for me, like especially now, I had to take her, I have her 24/7. Like I didn't know what to do with her. So I just took her with me. And when she was such a small baby, like I would carry her, then I would have this buggy that I would pull, that it was designed for cross country skiing, but I went split boarding, and then I had to do it in another way so I could ride down. And now I do a combination of a different backpack that I found for toddlers and the strap and a harness that it's designed for skiing, but I kind of put it on the side. So you have to get creative and find the ways that work for you. And the one thing that for me is tricky is to stop putting so much pressure on myself all the time. And I guess that's, for all of us, that happens in a way or another. But also the one thing I want to share with you, I have a friend who's a sports psychologist, and we became mothers at a similar time. She was also different in a different country. So for a year or so, we didn't really like more than one message. And one day it's like, hey, Alba, how you doing? It's like, yeah, I'm okay. That's what you say, right? And it's like, how are you? And she's like, I'm better now. I was like, oh, what happened? It's like, well, I'm just starting to get over the mooring period. And I'm like, wait, but you had a baby who died, And she went on and explained that it was the mooring period to her person as her that she had lost to her as a mother, and that would never come back. So she had to mourn her old self to become this new, better, different version of herself. And I think in this case of motherhood, but also this can be applied to any kind of big transition. Like switching careers or ending a sports career and moving on to a new chapter. And I think to have the time to process that, as you were saying, is very important, and allowing that space of, yeah, I miss it, or I love that, or that was great, or, it's never going to be the same. You can be sad, you can be happy, you can be all of it at once. And then that's going to make you strong to be able to see everything that could, because you move into this new person, but it's not like you're a blank canvas. Like, you have a lot of story and a lot of experience of whatever it is. So you can bring that into the new 2.0. So I think you'll be a great Anne-Flore 2.0 version ahead, or 3.0, with Mother Exponential. So I think it's going to be great. And you'd be very successful. And I don't doubt for a minute that you're going to be there pushing and supporting other women and other girls in the sport. Even if you work at something completely different, or your career or your family takes very far away, I'm sure some things will never change. And, by you having this conversation with us today, it's definitely one of those things that shows that you're not changed that much, and you will never change the essence of someone like you. So thank you.
Thank you, Alba. And thank you for out of everything you said, and it's so kind, but the thing I love the most is just imagining you with your little baby, like hiking up in the mountains. And I find it so cool, and I can't wait for the winter so I can do that with mine.